Her tiny frame trembled violently under the soft drizzle as she sat near the corner of the old bus terminal, her once white dress stained with dust and despair, her eyes clouded with days of hunger and hopeless wandering. She had nothing to her name but a torn backpack, a faded photograph of her mother, and a heart so tired it barely remembered how it felt to hope. The buses came and went, roaring like monsters, reminding her that life kept moving forward, even when she didn't know where to go anymore. On that gray morning, pain had almost convinced her to give up, until a gentle tug on her sleeve made her look up into the brightest pair of eyes she had ever seen. A tiny voice, fragile yet full of life, whispered words that changed everything. "You need a home, and I need a mommy." Right finger, before we begin this unforgettable journey, if you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. Your support keeps these heart-touching stories alive and reaching others who may need them today. Sparkling Heart. She was Anna Reed, 23, once a promising college graduate dreaming of a career in graphic design. But life had a cruel way of unraveling dreams. When her mother died from cancer just 2 months after she graduated, Anna lost not just her only parent but also her emotional anchor. Crushed by hospital bills and grief, she spiraled, quitting her job, drifting from one couch to another, until finally there were no couches left. One mistake followed another. Loan defaults, eviction notices, a broken relationship, numbing loneliness, and soon she was sleeping on cold benches, depending on strangers' mercy for scraps. She would eye passengers boarding buses with envy, longing for any destination that wasn't filled with suffering. But she had lost faith that life had anything left to give, until that day. The little girl's name was Emma Hartley, barely 6 years old, doll-faced with curly honey blonde hair and a smile that didn't match the sadness buried in her gaze. She wore a pink coat slightly too big, and held a tiny purple umbrella adorned with cartoon kittens. She looked like a child who belonged to warm living rooms and bedtime stories, not rain-soaked bus terminals. Yet there she stood, alone, staring at Anna as if she had found something precious in the most unexpected place. The adults nearby were too busy with phones and luggage to notice her slipping away from the crowd. Anna blinked in confusion, wiping her damp hair from her forehead. "Are you lost?" she asked hoarsely, her voice rusty from disuse. Emma shook her head solemnly. "No, I was waiting for you," she said with eerie certainty, her small fingers wrapping around Anna's frozen hand without hesitation. At first, Anna thought Emma must be mistaken. She surely had parents somewhere, anxiously looking for her. But when Anna tried to lead Emma to a nearby security guard, the little girl clung tighter, refusing to let go, tears brimming in her soft brown eyes. "Please don't take me back," she begged in a whisper that cracked Anna's tired heart. The words spilled like thunderstorm rain. Emma had been in foster care ever since her real mother died during childbirth. She had never known what a real family felt like. She had been shuffled from one cold temporary home to another, every place leaving new bruises, some on her skin, most on her fragile spirit. That morning she was supposed to board a bus to yet another foster house, but just as she stepped onto the platform, she saw Anna sitting in the rain, and something deep inside her whispered, "This is it." Anna's first instinct was to refuse. She shook her head, insisting she had nothing, no food, no bed, no future. But Emma only smiled through tears and repeated, "You need a home, and I need a mommy." The purity of that plea struck something deep in Anna's soul. She had spent months believing she was useless, but here was a child who chose her. Slowly, her heart began to thaw, one fragile beat at a time, reminding her of the woman she once wanted to be. Maybe broken people could still build something beautiful together. Wrapping Emma in her arms, Anna made the most impulsive promise of her life. "I'll try, I'll be whatever you need me to be," she whispered. What followed was a journey neither could have imagined. They snuck out of the terminal hand in hand, afraid that social services would tear them apart before they could even begin. Anna pawned her last piece of jewelry, her mother's broken pendant, to buy Emma warm soup and a cheap motel room. That night, as Emma slept peacefully for the first time in months, Anna stayed awake battling old demons. She stared at the ceiling, trembling under the weight of responsibility. But every time she looked over at Emma, something within her grew stronger. She wrote lists on scraps of paper, made plans to find work again, and scribbled dreams she thought she'd thrown away forever. The next morning, Anna cleaned herself up in the motel bathroom, brushing her hair, scrubbing her sneakers, and rehearsing smiles in the cracked mirror. She walked Emma to a nearby school and convinced the kind elderly principal, Mrs. Bennett, to allow Emma temporary enrollment while she handled the paperwork. Something about Anna's fierce determination and Emma's hopeful eyes softened the woman's heart. Sometimes, the best families are the ones we choose, Mrs. Bennet whispered before guiding Emma inside. While Emma began her first day of school, Anna hit the streets hunting for any job she could find. Rejection came quickly and cruelly. No address, no references, shabby attire. But she kept going. By noon, exhaustion nearly dragged her back to the bus bench, until she stumbled upon a small bakery cafe with a help wanted sign. The owner, Mr. Hughes, was a ruggedly kind man in his 50s who believed in second chances because he had once needed one himself. After hearing Anna's heartfelt honesty about her situation, he gave her a chance, part-time dishwasher at first, but with promise of promotion. Life was still hard. They shared instant noodles many nights, lived in tiny motels where cockroaches scuttled across walls, and held each other through nightmares. But there were moments of magic too. Emma skipping home clutching crayon drawings of Anna labeled, "My Mommy," Anna saving tips to buy her first real mattress in years, mornings filled with laughter instead of despair. Slowly, their hearts began stitching themselves together. In Emma's innocent belief, Anna rediscovered her forgotten strength. In Anna's protective love, Emma finally felt safe enough to bloom. Months passed. Anna's dedication impressed Mr. Hughes so much that he promoted her to pastry assistant. She learned how to knead dough, shape croissants, and even decorate cakes, something she'd loved doing as a child with her mom. One afternoon, she made a small heart-shaped cake and surprised Emma after school. Emma squealed in delight, hugging Anna so fiercely that curious customers teared up nearby. Word of their beautiful bond began spreading through the neighborhood. The bakery customers would often leave extra tips, and some even bought toys or clothes for Emma anonymously. As Anna's savings grew, she dreamed of renting a tiny apartment where they could finally unpack their hopes. But shadows lingered. One stormy evening, a stern-looking woman from Child Protective Services arrived at the bakery, holding a file with Emma's name. Someone had reported a suspicious child living with a homeless woman. Panic slammed into Anna's chest. She trembled as she explained everything, how Emma had chosen her, how she was working hard for a home, how love had made them family. But the woman said rules were rules. Emma would need to return to foster care unless Anna could prove stable housing and legal guardianship in 30 days. Those 30 days became the most challenging of Anna's life. She worked double shifts, skipped meals, and barely slept. Emma helped by packing her own lunch, reading quietly after school, and cheering Anna on with handmade notes. "You can do it, Mommy. I believe in you." The bakery community rallied behind them. Mrs. Bennet wrote a glowing letter. Mr. Hughes offered a full-time job contract. Customers signed a petition. And just 2 days before the deadline, Anna signed a lease for a small one-bedroom apartment with chipped paint but endless potential. In the final court hearing, when asked why Anna should become Emma's mother, Emma simply stood, held Anna's hand, and said, "Because she chose me, and I chose her." Tears flowed freely in that courtroom when the judge finally declared, adoption granted. They moved into their new home with nothing but a mattress, a second-hand bookshelf, and dreams. But to them, it felt like a kingdom. They cooked pasta on a tiny stove, painted sunflowers on their walls, and planted a pot of daisies on their windowsill to remind themselves how far they had come. Anna framed Emma's first ever school certificate and hung it proudly above the kitchen table. Every night they said their own version of prayer, gratitude for finding each other in a world that once tried to break them. 1 year later, Anna had been promoted to head pastry chef, and their home overflowed with warmth, books, laughter, and love. Emma, now 7, would proudly tell anyone who asked that her mommy wasn't found in a hospital but at a bus stop, "Because I needed a mommy, and she needed a home." And every time Anna heard those words, she felt a surge of emotion so powerful that she knew fate had not abandoned her after all. It had been preparing her for the greatest blessing of her life. Right finger if this story touched your heart. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. Your support helps inspire millions and keeps these powerful videos coming.